Media outlets in the former Soviet nation of Georgia reported in February that occupying Russian forces have built a lookout tower in South Ossetia. This is right alongside the part of the country that remains under control of the Georgian government, and Georgian Reconciliation Minister Ketevan Tsikhalashvili said the tower is only the latest move in Russia's increasing pressure on Georgia. He said, "The towers, illegal barbed wire fences, and other artificial barriers are part of an everyday battle of the occupying force against the locals. The tower is a new measure to exercise higher pressure on locals and control how many Ossetians are trying to cross the occupation line." It was just a little more than 10 years ago now that Russian forces invaded Georgia and asserted control over a fifth of the country's territory. At that time, Trumpet editor-in-chief Gerald Flurry said the attack marked the beginning of a dangerous new era in history. Now, a decade later, there's abundant evidence within Georgia and beyond showing that Mr. Flurry's forecast was accurate. Within Georgia, it's clear that the 2008 invasion was just the start. This is evident in the way Putin has not been content to simply hold the Georgian territory he originally occupied when he first invaded. Research by the Heritage Foundation has found that since then, Russia has engaged in more than 55 incidents of borderization at the edges of the areas it controls. In many of these instances, Russian and separatist forces have moved the border southward into the parts of the country that the Georgian government still controls. These incursions sometimes advance just a few acres at a time, but they expand the size of the area that Russia controls. And they send a message about who is really in charge. They show Georgia that Russia will not allow it to join NATO. And this new lookout tower is just a small part of this same broad strategy. Just after the 2008 invasion, Mr. Flurry said Russia's aggression would not remain limited to Georgia. He said he believed Ukraine would be next. And 5.5 years later, that forecast was proved accurate. In March of 2014, Russian forces invaded Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula and annexed it to Russia. So Putin had redrawn the borders of Europe twice. These are just a few of the signs from Putin's Russia showing that we truly are in a dangerous new era in history, just as Mr. Flurry had written. In his booklet, The Prophesied Prince of Russia, Mr. Flurry explains just how significant Putin's rule is, and he says that Putin is actually mentioned personally in an ancient Bible prophecy. This prophecy in Ezekiel 38 talks about a prince of Russia becoming powerful and aggressive and coming to lead a bloc of Asian nations. And we can already see that this is leading to instability for the world. But Mr. Flurry shows that there is also an astounding amount of hope that's also tied to this. And that's because the prophecies show that the reign of this Prince of Russia will happen at the end of this age of mankind attempting to rule himself. He says it's a sign that righteous, godly leadership is just a few short years away. To understand the details of Putin's role in Bible prophecy and the hope-filled sign that's tied to his rule, order a free copy of Mr. Flurry's booklet, The Prophesied Prince of Russia.